Hello everyone, and thanks for joining and tuning in. First, I want to say that this officer in this photo, this detention deputy, 11-year veteran, 11 years plus, was arrested for lewd and lascivious incidents with an inmate, solicitation for lewd and lascivious, also unlawful solicitation, misuse of public office, and the inmate made the allegations. And before we go any further and somebody says, yes, she probably just lied on him, no, she didn't. He admitted it later. He even said during the first interview when asked if he was responsible for these actions, I don't know, it's possible. Hey, there's a sign that he's probably involved. And then later he admitted and was arrested and booked into the jail, released on $6,000 bond. I want to talk about this, folks. What gets into the mind of a married man, 11 years plus veteran of a county jail, that makes him want to go play with the female inmates? We don't play with the female inmates, okay? The inmate said he would have her expose her breasts, and on other occasions he would have her, he would go and see her and have her expose her breasts and genitalia, and have her manipulate her genitalia while he stood there and touched his penis through his over his pants. He had his pants on. He didn't take it out, but he was playing with it or rubbing it as he was watching her. I have no other way to say it other than what it is. It's sickening, and I'm sure his wife is very unhappy about it. And I know one thing, the sheriff was very unhappy. One of the sheriff's comments was, he betrayed our trust, and we are holding him responsible. The sheriff also said, I wish we could add more charges, and maybe the investigation will lead to other incidents. You know, I know the sheriff is mad, and it's bad enough as it is, but he will make an example. This particular sheriff will make an example of this guy, believe me. He does not play around with employees who commit crimes. Mistakes, that's one thing. You can make a mistake and survive your careers, but when you delve over into the criminal side while in uniform, and then, like in this case, criminal, sexual, deviant side, you're definitely going to be made an example of. Now, he's been there 11 years, but this was the first time that something like this has come up. So did he just start this, or has he been doing it and he got away with it? Because the female inmate said, you know, well, we don't know, I can't read her mind, said that she was scared, she was going home soon, she didn't want any problems, so she did what he said, what he asked of her. We have had female inmates that will come up and flash male officers just for the heck of it. Think it's funny. But in this case, you know, we do have an officer that said it's possible it could happen, then later admitted to his crime. So, you know, for anybody that says these things don't happen, they're all fake allegations, well, many of them are false allegations that come along. But unfortunately, and you know this, no matter how hard it hurts, if you worked in the business long enough, we have an officer every now and then that does this type of thing, male or female, doesn't matter. And people tell me, well, wait a minute now, I know this sheriff's department does a psychological exam and a polygraph test, and they have 100 applicants, and 10 make it, and then maybe 5 out of those 10 when they finish all the testing. So how do you not weed out those bad apples? Well, let me tell you this right now. I've talked to the major in human resources at Pasco and other places, Pasco County Sheriff. I've talked to our human resources for Florida Department of Corrections, who does not do the polygraph exam or the polygraph test or the psychological exam. And those tests will weed out a lot of the bad people. But they're not foolproof. He passed all his tests. He passed the psychological and still went in there and did some sexually deviant things on duty. We can't weed them all out. We do the best we can. I tell everybody, we do the best we can. We do get a lot of them through these tests because the polygraph, you know, people go, you can't use that. Well, you can for hiring. And what it does is, if the applicant fails a certain test question on the polygraph, we can then go further into that question, further into detail. And it has brought many applicants actually to bring the truth out and say, well, yes, 7 years ago, you know, I did this or that. It's a tool, okay? Nobody's going to get arrested because they failed a test on the polygraph. It's not going to court. It's a tool for hiring. Psychological exam is the same thing. They look at how you answer the questions, and then you can be questioned a little further after testing to see if you've ever had any issues. It's all these things are just tools, but they are not 100% guaranteed to say, oh, this guy 100% or this girl don't hire because they're going to do a sexual deviant act 11 years later in their career. You know, it's not made that way. They're just tools. And I think we should continue to use those tools. It helps up front, but it won't catch everybody. People seem to think that, you know, the agency must be 100% responsible for making sure that nobody is a sexual deviant, nobody's going to abuse an inmate, nobody's going to steal from the agency, bribe somebody. Hey, it still happens, folks. We're humans. And the agency does put things in there to help protect them, to show that they did their very best not to hire people like this guy. But it happens. They slip through the cracks, folks. So I thought I would use this detention deputy's arrests and charges to also help explain that we can't stop everybody in the hiring process. We don't read minds. We don't have a magic crystal ball that we can look into that tells us this person is going to bring contraband in 15 years after they're hired, and they're going to deliver drugs to an inmate or a cell phone to an inmate, or they're going to have sex with an inmate, or they're going to ask an inmate to take their clothes off so they can look at them. We don't have that power, okay? We just do what we can to try to get these folks out. If they do slip through the cracks and they do what this guy did, we arrest them, we charge them criminally, we make an example out of them, and we put them in the news like this sheriff did right here in this photo. Put them in the news and let the whole world see what they did. Make an example out of them. Folks, don't come apply to be a correctional officer and come into our jails or prisons and play with the inmates. We don't play with inmates. We don't have sex with inmates. We don't ask the inmates to take their clothes off. And we don't deal with inmates, period. Come on. Folks, if you see an officer doing this, report them. They're just placing you and I in danger and the innocent people in danger. All right, thanks for watching. Gary York, True Prison Stories. Be good. Play at home. Thanks a lot.